escapade like this. So when I was young, Vietnam was the thing. And we had General Westmoreland, who told us that victory is just around the corner. And then eventually Daniel Ellsberg released the Pentagon Papers, and we found out, to use a technical term, it was all bullshit, top to bottom. And the American people had been had all along. Lyndon Johnson and Westmoreland and others knew everything was going terribly, but they were telling us the opposite. Now, I've gone through that now my whole professional life, my whole adult life, let me put it that way. How many wars, Iraq, Libya, Nicaragua, you name it. I've seen coups close up, CIA-led coups. I've seen a lot. By accident, I'm an economist. I'm not in this military intelligence gig, but you see a lot over the course of 45 years. My basic conclusion, Phidias, is it almost never works. Almost never. Almost never. Why? Because actually, Iran doesn't want to be led by the United States. It really doesn't. Russia doesn't want to be a vassal state to the United States. Russia really doesn't want NATO in Ukraine or Georgia. It doesn't work. And so from Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Nicaragua, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, it doesn't work. So that's my starting point. It's what we call a Bayesian prior, that I don't believe these guys because they never are right, by my experience, or almost never right. Now, what about the specifics? The specifics seem to be that you can make a hell of a lot of cheap drones, and you can't make $2 to $4 million THAADs and Patriot missile defenses. So it seems to be the case that the United States will run out of the anti-missile defenses sooner than Iran will run out of the means to attack. And Iran also has, according to the experts and according to what we saw last summer, it has hypersonic missiles that are very powerful, that can penetrate Israel's so-called Iron Dome and other layered air defenses. It's pretty clear the Gulf region does not have air defenses almost at all. And so shutting down the Straits of Hormuz is effectively done. Trump says that the U.S. Navy is going to escort these tankers through the Straits of Hormuz. I haven't heard one independent expert that believes remotely that this is anything other than mad Emperor Donald spouting off ignorantly as usual. So my guess is that either the shooting stops and Trump declares a delusional victory and can live within his own imagination that he's achieved the greatest victory in the history of the world since the creation of Earth, and that will be fine and he'll announce it. The war could end that way because he's perfectly delusional, so perfectly capable of declaring victory at any moment. Or the war goes on, and if the war goes on, it does not go well. But what clearly, I think everybody tries as best as possible to understand what the hell just happened last week. It seems that Trump was told, probably by Netanyahu and Mossad and the CIA, look, all we have to do is kill all these leaders, and then the Iranian people are going to rise up and protest, and that's going to be the end of it, and you're going to declare victory, and it's going to be like Venezuela, blah, 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 blah. And that didn't happen, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So if this goes on, then I think what we're going to have is an economic calamity and a spreading war. And I think that is the likelihood. Iran's not alone. It's going to get help definitely from China. It's going to get help from Russia. By the way, nothing. Yep.
Do you think China and Russia is helping now under the table Iran?
God, I would be almost certain that it is, because the war is directed against China, by the way. Not even in a subtle way. Iran is China's main oil supplier.
So do you think this is the underline of why the war happened? Because United States trying to hurt China?
Yes, I think it's one of the two reasons. It really is the dual idea of Israeli hegemony and American hegemony, but they're not really different or contradictory. This has been a partnership for decades, not a smart one in my view, not a healthy one, but a partnership. And so it's not, is it the US versus China or is it Israel versus Iran? It's both of them. And the people that are involved that guide this, which are the Mossad and the CIA, they don't see it as trade-offs or who's really the motivator. They see it as the same project, basically.
What does this will mean for China?
I think China's approach in general is avoid war and build the most powerful economy in the world. And I think it's working for China, and China will continue to do this. China hasn't been in a war for 47 years now, since 1979. That war was 1 month. It was a kind of slap on the wrist of Vietnam for having overthrown an ally in Cambodia. It was a 1 month war from mid-January to mid-February 1979. Other than that, China stays clear of war. I don't think China is going to go into this in a direct military sense, but I'd be frankly shocked if China weren't providing all sorts of components for Iran to build its weaponry, all sorts of intelligence operations, finance, and so forth. China has not only geopolitical stakes, it's got absolutely direct stakes. It doesn't want all the world's oil supply to fall into American hands with an American administration that is out to harm China. So what will China do? I think it will support Iran, and at the same time, it will stay out of the shooting and continue to develop its industry, as the 15th plan just unveiled shows. In the meantime, the United States has no industrial plans, no strategy, no nothing. The only strategy the United States has right now is war. And the data centers of the U.S. in the Gulf are being blown up one after another right now. Amazon apparently just hit. None of this is necessarily true. This is just what we're hearing in the media. But the U.S. has no industrial strategy. I thought, Phidias, by the way, one of the most interesting geopolitical events of many, many years was Mertz's visit to China last week. And not just the visit to China, but the particular clip of Mertz watching the robots at the Unitree factory. And the reason that I found that so amazing is truly no Western companies can do what China's doing right now. They can't. There's not a company in Germany that has anything like what China is doing. So I was just watching Mertz, watching this robot demonstration and thinking that what must be going on in his head is, holy shit, this is the world. Look what I'm looking at. What are we going to do? Of course, Europe has no coherent answer. Donald Trump has the opposite of an answer. Donald Trump is destroying our economies faster than anybody. I saw a nice quip in some I think comment section that said Trump will launch the ultimate weapon against Iran. He will become Iran's president, and that will be the ultimate destruction of Iran. And so,
can I, as I understand, I will tell you very briefly what I understand geopolitic-wise with China. So this maybe slows down a bit China, what United States did in Iran, but it will also slow down a lot, and politically, the United States. So this will hurt also the United States a lot because it will lose its trust. We see what happened with Spain, and a lot of other countries are starting to realize now that the United States is not a safe ally. Maybe Europe will understand this at one point as well. So this will slow this reaction of the world will also slow down the United States, and probably China will be less slowed down, and it will be an opportunity to rise up with by herself to cut that much dependence on the Gulf. So I want you to tell me what are your thoughts about
I think that's exactly right. The New York Times, which is not my favorite paper, it's the paper I've read for 60 years, but it's not my favorite paper because it kind of parrots the officialdom in an incredibly naive, maybe not naive, maybe just that's their job, I don't know, but it parrots the officialdom. Has a story yesterday or today that says, Putin and Xi on the back foot because of Trump, that Trump is really weakening them. Because Trump uses force, and it's proving that China and Russia don't respond. And this is the American comeuppance, especially to China. China's a paper tiger, blah, blah, blah. This is so incredibly naive. What the reality is that the U.S. has been at war nonstop for decades. And China has overtaken the United States economy. That's the basic story. China is far and away the leading industrial economy of the world. That's true just on almost any measure. If you look at the GDP measure, it's a little more complicated because you need to use so-called purchasing power prices to understand that if you compare China and the U.S. with the same price index, same pricing by sector, then China's about 30% larger right now in aggregate size. But in industrial capacity, China's running ahead. And the idea that that the U.S. is getting something big out of this is absurd. What the U.S. is doing is it's fought its wars to mass debt, where the debt to GDP ratio is well over 100. Well, it's about 100% by one measure. It's over 100% by another measure, and it's rising. And Trump is now facing another flood of red ink from this. $1 billion a day or more being spent on this war, and the cost will add up. The energy crisis, which will also hit the United States, though not as hard as Europe. The latest data, which I frankly have not had time to analyze carefully, but the job report that came out yesterday on Friday showed that the U.S. lost jobs in February. And this is very dramatic because basically in recent months, there is no job creation in the United States. So the U.S. economy is already very, very weak. And the implication for all of this is that if people think that this somehow strengthens the U.S., no, it does not strengthen the U.S. It's a massive, massive distraction. If you want to understand economics, economics is the long game. Economics is you invest, you build infrastructure, you have plans, you innovate, you build capacity, you train, and China's playing the long game, and it continues to play the long game, and the long game is working. And Trump is playing the minute-to-the-minute game right now. I mean, literally, his own aides don't know what's going to come out in the next moment.
So short-term victories, but long-term loss.
Absolutely. And we don't even know if short-term victories. We don't know, because that's propaganda. We don't really know what's happening. Israel has a blackout basically on reporting from Israel, except when you see a few clips on social media. So we don't know what's happening. We don't really know comprehensively what's happening in the Gulf, but I can tell you one good indicator to let us know is watch the oil and the gas prices. If they come down, it probably means that the supplies are flowing. And if they continue to rise, and right now Brent crude reached about $93 or $94, I'd be surprised if it doesn't reach above $100 in the coming days. But that's an indicator, because that kind of sums up the people whose money depends on it, and the physical flows, and it's not the propaganda side. It's the actual real story coming from the economy.
So you don't think President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize?
I think that the Nobel War Prize, he could definitely have a close race. I don't know whether Netanyahu would get it in the first year or Trump would get it in the first year, but somehow I do think we should reserve the war prize for the two of them. Maybe a war crimes prize. I don't know. We could think about a very innovative prize for them.
Okay, we need to talk about my country, Cyprus.
Yes, it was hit.
Yes, can you explain us how we were hit? And we have British military bases here, and they are used to for the war right now. So yeah, I want you to assess the situation, and like Cyprus, why the hell we are inside this, and we are European Union soil, which is adding something to the picture.
Yeah. Why does Cyprus have British military bases? Well, that is what we would call an anachronism. In other words, something that is utterly, completely unnecessary and worse for Cyprus. It's just harmful. The bases should close, and Britain finally, after about 500 years, should go back to its wonderful island and live within its own island. Britain went out and beat the shit out of much of the world for hundreds of years, and it's time to go home. And that would be a good thing, and good for Cyprus. And similarly, it turned out I warned them, and I told them, and I will tell them again, and I will tell Ukraine again and others, having the U.S. military on your soil, same way, not a good deal. No protection, just vassalage. So if you are hosting a U.S. military, you become a vassal. And I just have to emphasize, the United States doesn't care. It doesn't even care about Americans, much less care about Ukrainians or Cypriots or Bahrainis or Saudis, or it doesn't even, I mean, most Americans don't even know where these places are to begin with. But the purpose of these bases is U.S. hegemony, not protection of the host countries. And I think what the countries in the Gulf learned this past week is it's no protection at all. It's just a magnet for other people's bombs. And I like to remind
You
everyone
are against this philosophy that everyone is saying that is a double-edged sword, that in a way it's good to have military bases because the people will be afraid to attack you. And so you are saying it's only harmful.
Of course it's only harmful. There should be no overseas military bases in the world, period. You don't need them. It's not protection. It's a form of U.S. control over countries that host the U.S. bases. It's an expansion or extension of U.S. power projection. It's not for local protection. And people should really remember the very correct adage of Henry Kissinger that I quote very often, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. And this is the point. The Gulf countries, they want to duck under the U.S. protection. What kind of protection is this? Do they want Israeli hegemonic rule over the Gulf? I don't think so, but that's what they're getting. And that is not protection in political sense or a physical sense. They're getting bombed, and I like the Emirates in Dubai and have visited, and it's remarkable what they have accomplished. But it depends on peace. And the United States does not bring peace. And Israel certainly doesn't bring peace. And the Emirates signed up to this Abraham Accord, which is a phony, dangerous accord. Why is the Abraham Accord phony and dangerous? Because the idea was to paper over the fact that there are no Palestinian rights, that there's no Palestinian state, that there's no solution to greater Israel's hegemonic aspirations. And the Arab countries should say, look, there needs to be a state of Palestine. And then if there is, we will recognize and deal with Israel that lives within its borders of the 4th of June, 1967. But the Emirates did something different. The Emirates said, we recognize Israel. Israel's our partner. We don't wait for a state of Palestine. And what's the implication? The implication is that these minutes, because I'm seeing it on the phone right now in the news feed, the UAE is being hit by Iran. Well, they should have understood, why do it this way? Why not stand up for a real peace? And then you won't have the bombs falling on your head.
So I will, as a Cypriot and a member of the Parliament, of the European Parliament from Cyprus, it's very hard to kick out the UK military bases.
Just tell them to leave.
If we tell them, you think they will leave?
Yeah, they have to. Come on. The Cypriot government and parliament should tell Britain, goodbye. We don't need you. We don't want you. Go home. It's no good. You're creating trouble for us. And you got us bombed, and we don't like that. We're a beautiful tourist island and industrial island and smart people, and we've got universities and culture. We don't want to be bombed. So go home. You're not helping us.
And we don't want also to participate in this war.
Of course not.
Our island to be used to participate to this war.
Yeah, rather say, Emperor Donald, this doesn't make sense. You don't get to pick the next leader of Iran. You're not the supreme leader of the world. You don't get to assassinate who you want to assassinate. You don't get to launch wars in the middle of negotiations. You don't get to do that. That's what friends should tell friends. It's like, don't drive while under the influence. Well, don't bomb under the influence of delusions. That's what friends should tell friends. You're not helping yourself, and you're not helping us.
So you think it's possible to kick out the UK military bases? It's not. You're not joking. It is not an ideal scenario here.
I'll come and help if I can.
When you came to Cyprus, you said that the UK is the mother of all bad in the world.
Yeah, but by the way, so interesting. You know, I have said many times in the last year that the British are the source of all the world's problems. And it's not a jocular point, because every place I go, if you look at the underlying cause of the crisis, it goes back to the British Empire. But what's very interesting, Phidias, is that I've gotten a